Finally, Rama Kademi, I wanted to ask you about another issue. On Friday, Palestinians gathered for protest at the Israeli-Gaza border as part of the ongoing Great March of Return protests. Paramedics say at least 30 Palestinians were injured by Israeli soldiers during Friday's protests. Israeli soldiers have killed at least 34 Palestinians since the latest wave of protest against Israel's occupation began March 30th. You're also the director of grassroots organizing for the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights. Can you talk about these protests and the Israeli soldiers' killings of these protesters?
Yeah, it's been inspiring seeing Palestinians, take up their right of return. We're going to be marking 70 years of ongoing Nakba, the forced expulsion of Palestinians to create the State of Israel back in 1948, expulsions that have continued in the past 70 years as Israel pushes more Palestinians off their lands and grabs their land to embolden its power over the Palestinian people. And unfortunately, obviously, should not be shocking that Israel will respond in the violent way, because Israel's violence, very presence on Palestinian land, is violence. And I think that we should note, obviously be inspired by the bravery of Palestinians and be prepared to push the United States to end its military support of Israel, the billions of dollars that we send in military aid to Israel every single year that allows Israel, emboldens Israel to do what it does, and the protection that Israel. And also should be noting in terms of if we want true freedom and liberation of Palestine, there needs to be freedom and liberation in the region as well. We cannot separate Palestine from the greater issues in the region, whether it's Syria, whether it's Yemen or Egypt or Libya. These are regions that have been attacked and bombed by various forces, and the impact of Israel's Zionist policies against the Palestinians goes beyond just Palestinians. Obviously impacts mostly Palestinians first and foremost. But for example, in Syria, the Golan Heights is still occupied by Israel. Israel has claimed, again and again, that the Syrian regime claims that it is at the forefront of resisting Israel, but in fact, their border with the quote unquote border with Israel has been the quietest borders for decades. Syrians were making fun of the regime when the revolution first started in Syria in Daraa in 2011, and he sent his tanks there to shut down, just children writing we want freedom slogans on walls of their schools, and the regime sent tanks and tortured these children and, wanted to really put down the uprising from the start. People made fun of the regime, telling him, the Golan Heights is that way. Why are you sending your military here? Go, liberate our land that you claim to be. So I think we need to really talk, as we see and are inspired by the Palestinian people. We should be inspired by all the people in the region who have rose up and really look at these struggles as very interlinked.
Rama Kademi, I want to thank you for being with us, Syrian-American activist based in Washington, D.C., member of the Syrian Solidarity Collective on the National Committee of the War Resisters League. I also want to thank Chelsea Manning, perhaps Iraq-Afghanistan war's most famous whistleblower, now running for Senate from Maryland. This is Democracy Now! Stay with us.